Hello and welcome. Good morning to you, those of you in the UK. Good afternoon to those of you based in Singapore. Wherever you are, a very warm welcome to everyone for today's Maritime Trade webinar. It is great to see so many of you dialing in from the UK. My name is David Kelly and I'm the Executive Director here at the British Chamber of Commerce here in Singapore. As part of our ongoing work with our trade services team at the Chamber and together with the UK Department for International Trade, we support the export and growth of British businesses, and we've been running a series of sector-specific webinars for the UK market, such as this event that you're on today. Following Singapore Maritime Week, with lots of really brilliant announcements here in Singapore around digital, around decarbonisation, around resilience and talent. This virtual event is supported by both the British High Commission here in Singapore and the Department of International Trade, and it sets to inform and inspire, hopefully, UK maritime, R&D and technology businesses in the UK on opportunities and areas for collaboration between both countries. Over the next 90 minutes, you'll hear from our fantastic speaker panel. I'm delighted to welcome some brilliant speakers today. From the Maritime Port Authority here in Singapore, BHP, Innoport, which is BSM's investment arm, and North Star Shipping Asia as well. Our expert panel will delve into an overview of the landscape here in Singapore and what the maritime piece looks like, along with current trends, top challenges, opportunities, financing, and areas of innovation and tech needed in the marine space. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Please ensure that your computer or your mobile device is set to on mute to help the experience for all participants. There will also be an opportunity for questions and answers at the end of all the presentations. So once all the presentations are finished, we'll open up to a Q&A. So please put these in the Q&A function, which is available at the bottom of your Zoom call. And if your question does need explaining, I might ask you just to unmute your microphone just to provide a slightly further response as well. But first, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Her Excellency Cara Owen, the British High Commissioner to Singapore, to welcome you all today. High Commissioner, a very warm welcome and a huge thank you for joining us today, and over to you.
Well, thank you so much, David, and thanks very much to the British Chamber of Commerce, who's worked with the UK's Department for International Trade to put the event on. I'm really hopeful that after you finish listening to this fantastic panel of speakers, you will have a really good insight into Singapore's maritime ecosystem and get a good idea of some of the opportunities and the challenges that people active in this sector are grappling with, so that you can think of ways in which you could start acting here in this sector or increasing what you're doing here. We've got a super panel of speakers, all of whom are well known to both the Chamber and to the Department for International Trade. So I have to say huge thank you to Kenneth, to Heyman, to Rashpal and to Tom for giving up your time to give us valuable insights. It's always infinitely better hearing from those practitioners that can give proper insight into the sector than anything that we more generalists can do to articulate what's going on. So I'm really grateful that you are giving up your time to do that for those on the line. I'm joining from Eden Hall, which is the High Commissioner's residence. And in pre-COVID times, I think we were used to using this amazing building to host trade missions and events. And we have regularly done that during Singapore Maritime Week, providing live opportunities for UK maritime companies to form partnerships and collaborate within the Singapore shipping community. We can't do that at the moment. I'm only welcoming you virtually to Eden Hall, but if there's one thing I really want you to take away, it's the fact that the teams at the High Commission, the Department of International Trade team there, and the British Chamber of Commerce are standing ready to make sure that we can help connect you into bits of the sector that are the most pertinent to what you want to achieve here. So I hope you can use this briefing opportunity as a way to hear from the experts and to think about what is particularly pertinent about your business and how you can partner with the ecosystem here in Singapore. It's a priority for us at the High Commission in the DIT team. But we've also got, it's not just about the international trade team. We have sort of maritime in our blood, if you like. Alongside our trade team, we have our defence section, which is headed by a Royal Navy officer. And we also have representatives of the UK Hydrographic Office, a Maritime and Coast Guard attaché, and our Science and Innovation team, who are working with different bits of the Singapore research and innovation and corporate architecture on issues pertinent to maritime. By working together, we'd like to think that our teams can offer support to all kinds of challenges and all kinds of questions that UK private sector has about acting here. So get in touch with us, get in touch with the Chamber, where you've got deep expertise and knowledge in maritime too, if you think we can help. So I'm not going to say much more than that, because it's way more interesting to hear from the practitioners and the experts that are on the line. But thanks again to everybody for taking part. And I really wish you a fruitful session and fruitful future collaboration in Singapore. Thanks, David.
Thank you so much, High Commissioner. Thank you so much for joining us as well. So let's get started. Let's get into it. We've got four brilliant speakers, as the High Commissioner just mentioned. Our first speaker is Kenneth Lim, who is the Assistant Chief Executive for Industry at the Maritime and Port Authority here in Singapore. Kenneth has built up a really strong network of Maritime Singapore industry players across digitalisation, around HR innovators, of shipping companies, and the startup community as well. He's currently overseeing maritime strategy and policy at the International Maritime Centre, looking at business capability development, as well as innovation, technology, and talent development. Kenneth was seconded from the Government Technology Agency's GovTech in 2017 as Chief Technology Officer. In GovTech, he was the cluster director tasked with harnessing info communication technology related to engineering for public sector transformation, covering 10 public agencies within his CIO team. So I can't think of anybody better to talk about the overall landscape of what's happening in Singapore. Kenneth, it's brilliant to have you on board. Thank you to you and your team at the Maritime Port Authority. And I'm going to hand straight over to you as our first speaker. Thank you, Kenneth.
Thank you so much, David, and good morning and good afternoon to our participant of this webinar. My name is Kenneth, and I want to welcome you on behalf of Maritime Singapore. Maybe in the next few slides, let me just show you what the MPA's mission is, really about growing Singapore as a global hub port, international maritime center, and of course, to have a voice in the international arena. Beyond the seaport, actually, we have very good infrastructure on the air side as well as the connectivity side. And all these come out to be making Singapore relevant and providing the connectivity to the rest of the world. For Maritime Singapore itself, I think this is a place in which we try to build up the ecosystem for transformation, for innovation, digitalization, and decarbonization. And the reason why we wanted to do that is because we think that we have many companies, establishment that has settled in Singapore. We are connected to the world, and we have many of these throughput of container throughput, bunker sales, and registry that companies who like to transform, who are looking for innovation, could tap onto this existing ecosystem to innovate and to also kind of go onto this journey, which is why we are quite excited that Singapore can provide the ecosystem to the startup, the researcher, to many of our innovators out there. In fact, we created a network of innovators here and leverage on some of the other infrastructures or connectivity that we have to provide a very conducive environment. But we know that this can't be done just on the regulator ourselves, and we really leverage on all the partners, including the British Chamber of Commerce, and in the shipping industry, you have the various industry trade and partners who look at different aspects of the industry. and in terms of talent, in terms of research, in terms of seafarers, legal, and many aspects of Maritime Singapore. But actually today's webinar focus is really about transformation, and these are 3 strategic priorities for us: digitalization, decarbonization, and talent development. We think that the digitalization and decarbonization would be something that many maritime companies are already embarking, if they are not already, and especially on decarbonization. But beyond the digitalization and decarbonization, it is important to train up the skills of our workforce to be able to handle digitalization and decarbonization. Singapore Next Generation Tuas Port, which we have evolved over the years from a city terminal to Pasir Panjang terminal of 33 million. We are now building up our Tuas terminal, which is a 65 million terminal capacity. And this actually opens up a window of opportunity for a lot of innovators to come forward to test different type of concept, remote pilotage or next generation vessel traffic, drones delivery, additive manufacturing. So there are many opportunities that opens up for many of us to come forward. So in this area, we kind of like drive it around the digitalization, R&D. And you see on the screen there are multiple initiatives that actually not only ourselves, but working with the industry at large to look at interoperability of platforms across the industry for port clearance and for maybe other type of transaction. Working with the banks for financing part, electronic payment, invoices. We're also looking at electronic bill of lading, so that if there is a transfer of goods across ports, that we can use a bill of lading, or even electronic bunker delivery note, right, for bunkering purposes. That is where we set up Pier 71 as a program to bring along the startup, maritime companies, accelerator, venture capitalists together to look at how we could actually work together, right? And providing digital playbook for our companies to chart out their roadmap. On the bottom, you will see some R&D initiatives and manpower initiatives. The R&D initiatives ranges from electrification of hovercraft to alternate fuel in the area of decarbonization. For manpower initiatives, it's all about future-proofing our maritime workforce in terms of skills, traineeship, and also, of course, using the Singapore Maritime Week as a forum, as an event to bring about thought leadership. This is where I think we want to focus today, is on Pier 71. Pier stands for Port Innovation Ecosystem Reimagine. There's a place in Singapore which is at Ayer Rajah, is a road name. There's different block numbers, and there's a block 71, which is where most of the startup actually congregate. And this is not only specific to maritime, it is a startup area for multiple industry. But we think that we need to also build up and strengthen our maritime ecosystem to allow them, our startup and our maritime companies, to gain access to market, to funding, talent, and technology. In fact, every year we do an annual Smart Port Challenge, which is to have innovation workshop with our maritime companies, so that we can solicit the challenge statements across the industry. Then we will do a call for collaboration or solution across global, and then they'll be selected and they'll go for acceleration program. And then finally, they will then pitch their solution to the audiences. And those shortlisted can actually have grants for them to do proof of concept, proof of value with maritime companies. We hope that our effort in kickstarting this ecosystem and process will help the maritime companies and the startup researcher to translate all the technologies into maritime. Over the last 3 years, we have seen almost 30 over companies, 30 over startups that actually do pair up together, work on such solutions. And you can see drones, you can see underwater drones, you can see bunker, you can see fuel type of solution that actually pop up, even from different type of industry, from fintech, from meditech, to crossing over to maritime to share about their solution with our maritime companies. Maybe at this time, I could ask David and his colleague if you can play the video that we have prepared for you to give you a glimpse of PSFD1. Thank you. Thank you. And let me just continue on this. This Friday, we'll be launching the Smart Porch Challenge 2021. And I promised David that I will make this available to all in this webinar. So please do join us on this Friday, Singapore time, 4 p.m. We want to look at 5 focus areas that is listed on the screen here. And you actually would then, these are the challenge statement that will be opening up to the rest of the world and invite all interested parties to participate and also to hear from some of the past alumni in terms of their experience, how they have gone through. Because at the end of the day, I think as an ecosystem, we need to come together to build on each other's strength and capabilities to transform our business. I will just touch on quickly also on the decarbonization area, because this is an area of interest to many. In Singapore, we kind of like work with a few parties, international advisory panel to come up with reports. And we have research centers, decarb centers that we are setting up, funding that we are setting up to conduct trials and many of the areas of decarbonization. The next slide here shows some of the reports that actually have been generated. So I hope you will have a scan of the QR code and take a look at some of the reports, especially the most recent one is the decarbonization pathway for the global maritime industry. And in that, there is a recommendation to set up a decarbonization. And I think maybe Raspal later will also elaborate a bit more. Last but not least, I think, as I mentioned, there's the catalyzing talent development. This is an important aspect for us. So in terms of seafarers, in terms of skills, and bringing the HR innovators together as well, so that we can complete the ecosystem and to bring the whole innovation forward with many industry partners. In fact, this is my last slide. I just wanted to give you an overview of the innovation ecosystem in Singapore, in maritime, and many partners in many panel speakers in this session will elaborate further and also share with you their experience. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you so much, Kenneth. Just before you go as well, because amazing content in this and then some really amazing opportunities. Just a very quick question, if I may, before I hand to our next speaker. For any sort of UK startups on the call looking to get involved, is Pier 71 and the engagement this Friday the next best step for them, or is there another way that they can sort of plug into the ecosystem you've built more broadly?
Thanks, David. You can reach out to us anytime. The Friday is just a launch of the challenge statement so that startup from UK could think about it and then bring about some of their innovative ideas to the table and augment the maritime companies.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. One thing I will mention is that these slides will be available and the recording will be available afterwards if there is any information you want to go back into. I know there were quite a few QR codes with some brilliant content in Kenneth's presentation as well. Next up, we've got Rashpal Singh Bahati, who's the Vice President of Maritime and Supply Chain Excellence at BHP. Rashpal, a very warm welcome to you. Rashpal was appointed as VP of Maritime and Supply Chain Excellence at BHP in 2015. BHP is a leading global resources company whose purpose is to create long-term shareholder value through the discovery, acquisition, development and marketing of natural resources essential to the world growth and development. In his capacity as VP, he's accountable for BHP's supply chain requirements, which in aggregate make them one of the largest bulk charterers in the world. He joined BHP in 2002 and has held various senior positions across marketing, technology and procurement, and has been based in Europe, the US, India, and most recently in Singapore. Rashpal is also the chairman on the Right Ship Board and is a key proponent of rising performance and safety standards in the bulk marine industry as well. And he's also a director at the Maritime Decarbonization Centre that Kenneth was mentioning here in Singapore, where BHP is one of the founding members. Rashpal, again, a very warm welcome to you, and thank you for joining us, and over to you.
David, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. High Commissioner, panelists, participants, thank you very much for this opportunity today. I'm very pleased to be talking to you about something that I'm very passionate about, which is doing maritime business in and around Singapore. What you see in front of you here is something that we did last month, which is we tested a biofuel, which is actually old cooking oil that was gathered through Asia as a drop-in fuel to reduce carbon emissions on a bulk vessel by 80%. And we did this through the collaboration with Kenneth and his team, very, very strong collaboration with the MPA, with Oldendorf, as you can see here, as one of our strategic partners, and a company by the name of Good Fuels, which is a Dutch company that was the fuel provider here. This is a great example of the work that we can do with the MPA, and they enable us to take on work that perhaps would be less attractive in other parts of the world. So if we move on to the next slide, we can see that first of all, BHP brings people and resources together to build a better world. That is the purpose of BHP. We are now the largest company by market value on the FTSE. And for those of you that are not familiar with BHP, we are the largest mining company in the world, and we produce something like 250 million tons of iron ore and all of the other commodities that you can see there. And we do have a very good set of future-facing commodities like nickel, copper, and others, and potentially even potash, and are very well prepared for the electrification and decarbonisation of the industry, whether that's maritime or otherwise. So we have over 15 operated and non-operated assets spread globally in Australia, North America, and South America, and we deliver to and over 100 global ports, supporting the maritime transport of our inbound supplies and outbound products. To put it into perspective, we're delivering about 350 million tons of products to our customers across the world, and we charter approximately 1,500 voyages per annum. That means that we move about 3% of the world's seaborne trade. Now that number might sound small relatively, but don't forget that the world trade is at about 12 billion tons per annum. So our mission statement is what you can see there. We deliver the safest and most sustainable coverage to our assets and customers at the lowest cost. We have a very clear view on how we do that. We must be safe, we must be sustainable. We must have a winning portfolio, so our coverage and our responsiveness to coverage is absolutely important. We can't afford to have a birth cap. And we do that through exceptional performance. So whether that's through partnerships globally, whether that's the people that we hire at BHP, we have to have the best capability, the best technology, and the best partnerships to do that. So decarbonisation makes perfect sense for BHP. So we've got iron ore that's in the ground for at least another 100 years. So that means from a decarbonisation point of view, it is an imperative for us to make sure that we decarbonise. It's not a nice to have, it's not following the industry, it's not an investor play, it's an imperative. So we emit greenhouse gases through our own operations that we must abate. Our stakeholders are increasing expectations of us, and climate change actions make good economic sense for us. So how do we do this? What are our three pillars? So first of all, data democratization. We absolutely strive to make sure that we are data-led. And then we have three pillars underneath that that work for us from a decarbonization perspective. First is future fuels. What is that zero carbon fuel going to be that takes us to 2050? The enabler for that is the Maritime Decarbonization Centre that Kenneth talked about. We're very proud to be founding members. And for us, this is an ecosystem approach. There is no way that BHP or any other organization for that matter will be able to take a view that we will, on our own, unilaterally, be able to provide the zero carbon fuel for the future. This is a global phenomenon. It's an existential issue, and it's one that the globe and the best companies and organizations in the world will deliver for. And we're very proud to partner with the MPA and together with the other founding partners to make this happen. And I would say to anybody on this call who has a passion towards this or has ideas towards this, then please do reach out, because the Decarbonization Centre in Singapore is going to be that organization very soon that leads the globe forward to making this a reality. Secondly, onboard innovations. We're not standing still. You know that we've already put forward 5 LNG vessels that are going to deliver 35% reduction in carbon for the world and eliminate NOx and SOx. But we're going further. Onboard innovations for us mean, for example, that we will be taking forward very soon 5 wind rotors for added propulsion. That will reduce our carbon emissions further by 8%. We are also looking at air lubrication methods on all of our vessels. Thirdly, chartering choices. We have to make the right choices today. In 2022, the CII and the EEDI and the EEXI requirements will demand that the oldest vessels, the most polluting vessels, will just not be chartered. Will just not find their way into first-class supply chains. And we have to be ready for that today. And there is so much work that needs to be done in that space, from a measurement perspective, from a census perspective, from a digitalization perspective, that today we spend probably 30 to 35% of our time thinking about the digitization and implementing those solutions across our fleet. So let's take those turn by turn. Future fuels. So I talked about the LNG fueled bulk carriers, just as an example, and I've talked to David and the High Commissioner about this at length previously, that the LNG fueled vessels that we took on last year with EPS, with Shell, shipyards in China, had a multi-pronged, multi-organization effort around the world. There were European companies, North American companies, Asian companies. In all, approximately a dozen organizations came together to deliver this solution: technical, non-technical, commercial, regulators, shipyards, etc. Unfortunately, none of those were from Britain. And as a Brit myself in Singapore, I'm passionate that the capability that we have back in the UK is represented equally, or equitably, should I say, in Singapore. And I would urge and encourage everybody on this call who would like a piece of this to please do come forward to make this happen. Secondly, biofuels. You just saw the picture with the Cara Owen. Biofuels is a very important part of our portfolio, and we think that that will be economically viable. It's not at the moment. We've just seen the results of that field. Operationally excellent, emissions abatement excellent, economically far too expensive yet. But we're looking for solutions on how we can take that forward. And if you feel strongly about that, then please do reach out. We are also, of course, looking into ammonia and hydrogen, and very much looking forward to thinking about how those fuels are going to become part of our portfolio. Incidentally, the DNV report recently and the ABB report don't see LNG as a transition fuel. They see that as a sustaining fuel that takes us right through 2050. Onboard innovations, I just talked about wind-assisted propulsion. And we are also focusing on just-in-time arrival, so we don't have any issues around waiting around ports or otherwise through digitization. And in the future, we'll be looking at onboard carbon capture facilities, and that we're pretty close to delivering those at the moment. So if I think about this then from a digitization perspective, what have we done already? Our go-to-market digitization solution is implemented. That means that each of our commercial people has access to real-time digitization and predictive analysis here and now. When one of my team members thinks about the vessel to charter, they know at their fingertips that vessel's emission targets, what they've done in the last 5 rounds, how many knots they've gone at, what their economic speed should be, what the total cost of ownership of that vessel looks like, and how many safety incidents those ships have happened on one platform. And we call that the TE platform, that is made up of a number of systems across the globe that come together for us. We've just implemented transport management systems with SAP, and that allows us to connect with the largest liners in the world to deliver the best solutions from a life cycle perspective, so that we don't lose out on any time between our liners coming to our ports and our customers in China, in Europe, in North America, getting that copper, putting it into our cars that we drive, into the phones that you use, and into the solar panels that we all should be using in the next few years. And then vessel scheduling optimization is one that I'm really, really proud of. We have partnered with a number of organizations to deliver a scheduling tool. That means that the hundreds of millions of tons of iron ore that we produce, and that goes to a number of customers with different qualities, that we assess that with an algorithm, a very, very powerful algorithm that we built in partnership with a number of organizations around the world and universities, that delivers the most optimized quality, quantity, route assessment for every vessel that comes into Port Hedland every day, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. So looking ahead, so digitization enables our future strategy. What we're looking at is 2 things: incident risk analytics, and we're going to be driving this from Singapore. What this means is that we now need to look at this from a predictive perspective. So what's going to happen with the South China Sea? What's going to happen from a Spratlys point of view? What's going to happen from a Taiwan perspective? All of these algorithms come together to give us a real-time view as to the route that should be taken and where we might see supply chain disruption. And we're using a significant amount of new technology to help us with this route optimization, and not just route optimization, but to understand what we should be paying for those routes, to understand what our competitors are doing, so that this predictive analytical tool can give us the lowest cost, safest coverage across the globe. Then on the right-hand side, you see GHG emissions, insights, and management. As you can all imagine, we can't wait for lagging data. We need to know what the GHG consumption and emissions are going to be on the next route. Not measured real time, but we need to predict what they're going to be, because this is going to be our table stakes with our customers. Our customers in steel mills across the globe and our automotive partners, our copper wire partners, etc., demand to understand what emissions we will have to abate to deliver to them. Otherwise, we will not be able to deliver to those customers. That's why, from a digitization perspective, here in Singapore, we are the first charterers to take that forward, the first mining company to take that forward, and the first maritime organization that will deliver this solution to our customers. So finally, the new capability needs and growth opportunities have never been more abundant in our industry. On the left, you see the key skill sets we need, and to some degree that we have in our armory. But all of those only come together with a purposeful and coordinated ecosystem collaborative approach. And if you look at all of those organizations on the right, that's what makes us successful. And we don't succeed at everything that we do. We fail fast and move forward. But what I want to leave you with is the message that BHP and many other large organizations, and the MPA is central to this way of thinking, is that whatever we do today, it's about value that gravitates away from BHP and into the industry. It's not about value that gravitates towards BHP. The type of complex problems that we're trying to solve are not just for BHP. These are problems that we're solving because we have a responsibility to the world. We have a responsibility to the industry. And these are solved through significant collaboration, leaving our egos behind, putting value on the table and saying that we will share this value and we will do this together. And my encouragement to everyone on the call who feels that that is the right way to move forward is to please reach out to the FPA. And as Kenneth said, take this forward. And where there are tenders that come out of BHP or other Singapore organizations, please do reach out. I often say that I really hope that our next set of capability comes from organizations like Plymouth University. I'd love to see that. I hope that we see some of the classification societies work like DNV does with us in partnership. I would love to see some of the vessel owners and operators that are in the UK work like NYK or COSCO or Oldendorf do with us today. And hopefully, given the partnership that we have with David Kelly, the High Commissioner, that we can be of some help and enablement to taking the maritime industry forward through partnerships across the globe. Thank you very much. And back to you, David.
Rashpal, thank you so much, and a brilliant call out there for companies to get involved, and excellent to see your data democratization piece around future fuels, onboard innovations, and chartering choice as well. Really impressive to see your developments. Are there just before we move to the next speaker, are those the top 3 things that you're focusing on at the moment, or are there other problem statements coming out with your stakeholder engagement, with the Decarbonisation Hub, with your engagement with Pier 71? How can companies sort of get involved with you, and are there other things on the horizon that seem to be coming up within BHP?
David, thank you for asking that question. If I was to say what are the 3 priorities in 3 words, they are definitely and undoubtedly decarbonisation, digitization, and capability. Those are the 3 areas of extreme focus for us, and that's where we need partnership to solve very complex issues.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Rashpal. Introducing our third speaker today, we have Heyman Sianopius. Heyman is the Investment Manager Asia for Innoport, which is the corporate VC arm of ship owner and ship management company Bernard Schulte. So we're going to talk about the finance aspect of supporting early startups in the maritime space as well. So Hayman sources, selects and invests in early stage startups in the marine and port and logistics sectors, and drives Bernard Schulte digital transformation journey. He started his career at Bernard Schulte in 2007, concentrating on change management and new business opportunities. From 2011 to 2018, he built up 2 companies in East Africa and supported a family office managing its clients' liquid asset portfolio. He's a mentor in Techstars, as well as one of Germany's most successful tech startup networks as well. Working in and with startups for a decade in various cultures, both from an entrepreneurial and an investment perspective, Hayman gives the skill set to identity great founding teams, as well as understanding and supporting them all. Hayman, it's great to have you with us. I think you provide a really interesting perspective around funding great tech startups to support the ecosystem that we've heard from Kenneth and Rashpal. And so really looking forward to your presentation. Over to you.
Thank you very much, David. So good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you to the British Chamber of Commerce Singapore, of course, for giving me the opportunity to speak about financing technology in the maritime industry. So my name is Haimon. I'm the investment manager Asia for Innoport, the CVC of the Schulte Group. The Schulte Group is a 135-year-old German shipping company with 2 core focus areas in ship owning and ship management. And within the group, we also have a lot of ancillary service companies to service mostly the ship management side. That includes a worldwide operating port agency. It includes a diving and hull cleaning company, launchboat operations in Singapore, ship chandlery services, etc. As part of the digitization journey, MariApps was founded within the group, a large development company by now, offering a fully integrated software suite for ship management. And then 3 years ago, we started looking into also funding startups, more early stage startups in technology, to get access to technology and to play an active role in the ecosystem building for maritime startups. This is quite an important part, I think, because the maritime startup ecosystem is still fairly immature globally. Singapore has been very actively building that ecosystem from the government side as well, supporting that all the way. So when we look at the ecosystem, we have to ask ourselves, why is it so, let's say, a little more immature than other industries? Quite often it is compared to, for example, the aviation industry, which is more technologically advanced. So first of all, we are operating in a very conservative industry. So companies, corporates are often very, let's say, hesitant to adopt technology to change the way we operate. Secondly, it's a complex industry with some unique characteristics. For example, if we're looking at those a lot of paper-based documentation that Kenneth also mentioned earlier, taking, for example, Seafarers certificates, it is something that is at the moment paper-based, although technologically it would be possible to have that in a digital format. But it's quite complex because you have to have all stakeholders work together. You've got the issuing authorities. You have the seafarer who needs a wallet to hold certificates. You have the ship management companies to handle those and to verify that they are authentic. Then you have the port agencies to need to accept those digital certificates. And all of that, it's not yet complex enough, because now we're not looking at one geography, we're looking at the global scale, because obviously our ships are trading internationally. So that makes it quite unique. Secondly, when startups approach the ship side, they often forget or are unaware that internet connectivity is still a big problem. For all shore companies, in our everyday lives, we have the internet in our pocket all the time. But on ships, it's still a big challenge. And also, as a large third third-party ship manager. We don't have control whether we have now a stable or unlimited VSAT connection on board, right? So also there's no history really of open innovation within the shipping industry. A lot of companies work fairly, let's say, closed books and on their own, rather than sharing technology, which for some areas is necessary. Again, same example of digital certificates. We would need collaboration among the stakeholders for it to work, right? To agree on standards. Lastly, there's another challenge in that the middle management often in the companies are often not very tech savvy. So even if the top management says, well, we like the ideas, if the operations people do not pick it up, it's difficult to pursue. And that comes through that a lot of people in the fleets, they are ex-seafarers, maybe 20 years on board vessels, 20 years in the office, and now we're asking them to change the way they did business for the last decades. Right? So that can become very challenging. So if we look at the global startup ecosystem in maritime, it's still fairly there are fairly few investors, fairly few adopters, and a few startups, right? So the startups, of course, they need funding, they need collaboration, and so it all integrates. The good thing is we see growing interest in innovation and digitalization, and that is visible with a lot of larger companies in the shipping industry, with the governments especially. I mean, Singapore doing a fantastic job building an ecosystem where innovation is possible. And then also COVID-19 in the last 1.5 years has raised the awareness for the need for digitalization. I mean, we were all asked to switch from to working from home one day to the next. And a lot of companies realize that integrated software solutions across their operations are very helpful in that. So with all those challenges and the growing ecosystem, the sort of how do you actually then successfully finance technology? And let's and here we are with Innoport targeting early stage startups. They have various options to invest in startups. Several of those invest directly. That of course means you need team members who have the expertise and look into and can do that next to their normal roles. You can have dedicated vehicles like Innoport as a CVC within the company to finance and fund startups. But that remains to be very rare. So Innoport is one of the very few early stage investors in the space. Then they can go through accelerator programs like Techstars or Plug and Play. I mean, in Singapore, there are various accelerator programs running that support startups, also international startups coming in. Next to Pier 71 from MPA and NUS, you have also the Techstars EPS accelerator, which has a very international audience as well from the startups. Funding startups also needs venture capital, and here it's not easy to get access because maritime is not on the radar of most financial VCs. There are few agnostic VCs that also do maritime investments, like Betatron in Hong Kong, for example. But the problem here is that maritime at first glance doesn't look very sexy. I mean, there are 50,000 ships, there are 1.7 million seafarers, which for a lot of VCs is just not a very big population. So the scalability is questionable. So that makes it difficult to get VC funding per se, but of course there are some that can be approached. Then government support also a very important point. There are, of course, there can be grant opportunities, tax rebates, etc. Singapore has taken a very proactive approach, and also having Enterprise Singapore and its subsidiary Seeds Capital to invest directly into startups alongside corporates. So Innoport is one of the appointed partners of Seeds Capital. So if we invest, there can be a matching from Seeds Capital directly. And then it's not only funding and supporting the startups financially. There should also be support for technology adoption. And Singapore is giving, especially to SMEs, grant opportunities to adopt technology. And that, of course, it's a circle, of course, and that is very important to the startups as well, because they need clients, they need companies to use the technology. And I've also put the stakeholder collaboration here, because we have to work together to make this to build the ecosystem and to make it successful. And in Singapore, it's maybe easier than in other places because a lot of startups in Asia go through Singapore. So that's why also we have our office there, so that because it's very, very centralized. In Europe, it's a lot more difficult with technology in countries all spread out. And of course, through also the initiatives like Pier 71. Two examples of startup investments in maritime from our portfolio, and I have chosen two from robotics rather than the sort of one of the major topics of like decarbonization that we always hear about these days. Robotics is something where we have a lot of potential, but we already have some technology that is deployable. So we can start already and have future potential. Looking at the first one, performance rotors concentrates on confined space inspections using aerial drones. Confined spaces means in tanks, in cargo holds, etc., where there's no GPS, where there's magnetic distortion, making it very difficult to fly a drone. So there's no possibility to just go to the shop and buy a DJI drone and get started. So it's quite sophisticated technology. They're one of the first to also deploy next to visual inspection non-destructive testing, which is very challenging, but also very important. Nowadays, we see more remote inspections and classes, and also looking for more remote inspections due to the restrictions in COVID. The overall performance rotors is very interesting and very interesting investment, because we have various benefits from using that technology. First of all, it's a lot safer. We don't have people working at height or entering spaces where there are gases and fumes, where it might be unsafe to enter, where you have tiny little manholes to go through ballast water tanks, etc., etc. And it is a lot more efficient. It's very fast to deploy those drones, and they can reach most spaces within cargo holds without building any infrastructure like scaffolding. They also have defect detection algorithms that in the future will help us to automatically detect corrosion, pitting, etc. So the algorithms work very well, but like with any object detection algorithms, the underlying data still needs to improve massively for those to be accurate. We invested very early on into performance rotors, and then led them up to the next funding round, where we also took part, and we got a major oil and gas company as the lead investor for the follow-on round. And this is one very important aspect, and this was also mentioned before today, that quite often it's very helpful for startups to have more than one industry to serve, because adoption in the maritime industry can be slow. So it helps to also have other customers. The second example, F-Drones, also a local startup from Singapore, does cargo drones for shore-to-ship deliveries. They are one of the first to offer 24-hour, 7 days a week services from shore to ships. At the moment, for smaller items, bunker samples, documents, smaller spare parts. And it's a very cost-efficient and fast way to deliver to onboard vessels. So far, we need to, when we use launch boats, of course, to make it efficient, we always need to make sure that we consolidate to do it in a cost-efficient manner. And we did not invest very early here, but we only actually early this year. We engaged with them 2 years ago and decided to first work with them, do actually test flights and POCs to really validate the technology and the processes around that. That was a very good journey that we've gone through with F-Drones. I'm very happy to now have them in our portfolio as well. And we also built a strong cap table, including seeds capital from government side, and other port agencies and ship managers as well, so that when we expand into new geographies, we can support F-Drones with already a very good customer base. So maybe to summarize, what do we need to continue building the strong ecosystem? So, and this is maybe on a broader scale and sort of more global scale here. So generally, corporates need to continue becoming more open towards new technology, and a good way to do that is to be more active with proof of concepts or pilot projects, engaging with startups. That is something where you can get, first of all, you get some experience in working with startups. You can test out different technologies before you actually then decide to invest. Because of course, if you do venture capital early stage investments, you have to invest rather broad into various companies for it to be commercially successful as well. Then the startups, with a lot of startups that we see, the product market fit needs to be refined. So, and that again is something where more collaboration between corporates and startups will help. They need to better understand the industry and solve real pain points. The maritime industry will not adopt technology for technology's sake, for the various reasons that I spoke about earlier. So that is something where we will need to see really good solutions in the market. Also here we have the accelerator programs, including Peer 71, that really tries to bridge that gap to start with challenge statements from the industry, going towards and then really working with startups to solve those challenge statements specifically. For investors, we certainly need more. We see a few more agnostic VCs to engage in the maritime industry, some of them coming rather from the logistics or broader transport space. Smart capital, more CVCs would certainly be helpful. And then from the regulators and government side as well, to facilitate innovation, they need to be pragmatic, agile, flexible. And I mean, in Singapore, even if a new technology is coming to market, that may be where the underlying legal framework is not yet in place, they usually facilitate very well so that we can test the technology very early on. And then, of course, funding in Singapore, this is already very broadly available. Other countries could certainly do their part in improving and giving those opportunities to adopt technology as well. So with that, I'll end my presentation and would be very happy to take questions or also discussions after the webinar. So please feel free to approach me. And over to you, David. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Heyman. Really interesting perspective. Great to see that activity as well. Just before we hand over to our final panelist speaker, A bit of a silly question really for you. Do companies approach you in terms of funding because you have a big asset base that you can test products and services on, or with BSM being sort of your group owner, do you look for solutions back in the marketplace? How does that piece work?
Both actually. So we, of course, we are startups like working with us because we have different verticals within the shipping industry that where we can test technology. So especially if it's sort of across verticals within the industry, we can support with. I mean, F-drones is one example where we've got the of course we have got the ships, we've got the ship managers, we've got the port agency, we've got the ship channeling business, the launch boat company. In Singapore, where it works very well, where that we can sort of test it from all different angles and get expertise from all the players. But overall, we do very actively look for startups. And pre-COVID, that was a lot easier because in Singapore there was so many events that I attended in 2019 and early 20 before, of course, we were forced to do that a lot of that online. So yeah, I think we get approached by a lot of startups now. So I think the last 2 years we've managed to get good visibility so that startups can approach us and do approach us for that. But at the same time, if there are certain challenges within the group that need to be solved, yes, we also actively go out and look for those solutions and are very open to work anyway. That that helps develop that ecosystem further.
Fabulous, thank you very much. Sounds like an open door for interesting tech, maritime tech businesses. So really Absolutely. Great to hear that. Thank you for your perspective there. On to our final panelist for today's session before we have an opportunity for some Q&A. And it's last but definitely no means least is welcoming Tom Bonehill. Tom is the co-owner of the North Star group of companies. North Star is a privately owned, fully integrated ship owning, chartering and management group with offices in Singapore, the US, Myanmar and Japan. Tom's a British citizen and has lived in Asia for the last 28 years with postings in Jakarta, Hong Kong and Singapore, where he's resided for the last 24 years. A shipbroker by background, Tom stopped broking in 2007 to focus on North Star's ship owning investments and vessel management business. Tom led North Star's expansion in Singapore with the establishment of North Star Ship Management to manage its vessels in-house, along with third-party management for other strategic partners that he works with as well. Tom co-leads the North Star group with his brother Chris, who's based in the US, and Tom has spearheaded North Star's expansion in Myanmar over the last 11 years, where their significant presence has grown. A seasoned professional, he's gone through several of the shipping cycles and has extensive network across the industry. Tom's also, and this is a big shout out, certainly with the COVID pandemic at the moment, he's been working very closely with the mission to Seafarers in the UK to raise awareness of the plight of our seafarers who have kept global trade going, and is currently organising the committee on the organising committee, for the inaugural adventure race in Japan in 2022-23. So please support that. Tom, great to see you today. Thanks so much for your time. Really looking forward to your presentation from your perspective, running a business here in Singapore as well. Over to you, Tom.
Great. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Many thanks, Dave, for such a great introduction. And thank you also to the Chamber for inviting me to say a few words today. So I'm going to talk about some of the challenges that we have seen over the last 18 months or so as a ship owner, operator and ship manager, along with some of the challenges we see going forward as well, and some areas of potential collaboration. Next slide, please. So to begin with, just a few words about us. So the North Star Group is a privately owned, fully integrated ship owning and ship management group. We were established in 1998 in the UK. We're presently managing a fleet of 17 tankers. We have about 65 shore-based staff and a crew pool of around 750 seafarers. As Dave mentioned, we presently have 4 offices: Singapore, which is our largest office, the US, Myanmar, and Japan, where we provide commercial, technical, crewing and accounting services from. So we established our own ship management company in 2009. And the reason we did that was to gain greater control of cost and quality on the ships that we invest in and also manage, with very much an owner's approach to ship management. We are signatories of the Neptune Declaration on Seafarer Wellbeing and Crew Change. We intentionally have not built up our ship management platform as large third-party ship managers over the last 10 or so years. The reason is we instead have focused on sharing our resources with other strategic partners and end users. Next slide, please. So the purpose of this presentation is to really lay out some of the challenges we've seen across the different parts of our business. So as a ship owner and operator, we have seen a number of different challenges. COVID has been a real catalyst for change. And what we have seen is ESG now driving a lot of policy change from all stakeholders in the business that we deal with. So this can apply to ship finance, specifically green finance and the Poseidon principles. So ship owners will find it increasingly difficult to get finance for their ships unless they have green credentials. ESG is also the driving policy of many of the major charterers, as Rajpal also has talked about. So this is a great thing, but there can also be conflict when the profitability of any particular voyage for the owner or for the charterer can be affected. So owners and charterers will really need to practice what they preach in this area, and we all hope that does happen. It isn't always the case at the moment. There will also be a need for a common metrics for carbon accounting. So the banks, investors, and regulators increasingly expect shipping companies to measure their carbon footprint. So we will need a harmonized and easily understood carbon measurement system to ensure progress based on a common set of standards and prevent the unintended consequence of reducing greenhouse gases in one area whilst actually increasing in another. All of that will come at a cost for compliance, and we will see everybody needing to hire more people for the reporting processes, whether it's reporting to our charterers, which we're already seeing, or it's reporting to flag state or to the banks when it comes to the Poseidon principles, etc. There's going to be a lot more reporting, and a system will need to be developed whereby all of this data which is being collected will be fed into that and then used somehow. We're always looking at system-driven technological developments. So there is a requirement for an integrated solution to cover the areas of finance and procurement for timely monitoring of purchasing inventory, cash position, as well as liabilities at the same time. This needs to be easy to use for our ship's personnel as well. They have enough to do on board. Raising capital, that's something that we're very focused on. We're first generation ship owners, and we're looking to make that transition into a larger company with greater scale and a focus of making the transition to a green shipping company. So private equity has a very different mandate often and looks to exit over a defined period of time. So we're looking for longer term investors to actually grow our business without simply selling out or being absorbed into another company. Next slide, please. As a ship manager, really the here and now issue, crew change aside, is the vaccination of the seafarers. We need to prioritize the seafarers. The mental well-being, crew availability, and immigration travel restrictions caused by COVID continue to be challenging. So there are potential areas of collaboration. We could look at an information sharing system or platform where there is a senior officers pool system. This could help with critical crew change with the COVID restrictions and could help improve the logistical challenges that we face. So each company could nominate senior officers who are ready to go back to sea and are on a standby list. And then should the situation arise where a company's own senior officers are unable to join a vessel due to COVID restrictions, the senior officers could be taken from that pool and join on shorter contracts when they're ready to actually travel out to a port. We also need to focus on vaccination, as I mentioned. We need to speed up the establishment of COVID vaccination hubs in key transport airports such as London, Qatar, Dubai, and Singapore. So what that means is when crews sign off or sign off ships, it should be possible to have vaccinations at that time. We've already seen the US do this and certain other places, including Holland, but it needs to be done more elsewhere as well. The same goes for visas upon arrival. So one of the challenges that we have seen is embassies around the world where our crew come from are not operational due to lockdowns. So more countries really need to impose visa upon arrival methods for crew travel. Mental health, there's a lot of work being done in the industry on this very, very important topic. We can use digital solutions. At the moment, we're rolling out an app-based system called Well at Sea across our company, which focuses very much on the mental and physical health of our seafarers. So there are many internet-based products out there in the market, but it would be good to have an app where all of the data and information can actually be fed into a master app. The problem is a lot of these software companies have not opened up their systems. We need to have common interfaces and APIs. Next slide, please. Okay, the education of seafarers continues to be a huge challenge, but also a huge area of opportunity going forward. So there's an opportunity for collaboration with UK institutions and universities, with academies and training centres in emerging crew centres such as Myanmar and Indonesia, where we are active and well connected as a group. Often funding is just not available locally. We also need to invest in new training the new technology. So the present crew worldwide is not equipped to make that transition to the new green technology on vessels that we are working on. This is because there is simply a lack of education and training for this new technology, which is largely unknown and untested. So for example, only gas ship crew are trained for LNG bunkering. So global shipping, when it makes this move to other fuels by 2030 and probably sooner, the crew need to be ready for that. We also need to upgrade the communication equipment. So vessels at the moment, at best, are equipped with VSAT. Higher bandwidth technology needs to be implemented on ships at affordable prices to better enable ship-to-shore communication. And also with the new technology which is being rolled out and automation of ships, there will be heavier data exchanges. This will be one way of bringing the manning costs down as we move towards automation and less people on board ships, and also more monitoring from ashore, which will be necessary. There will also be new environmental regulations, which is a very hot topic as always at the moment. So the crew will need to be trained on the legal and legislative expectations in different parts of the world. So the possible solution for that will be short duration courses from environmental training held by institutes globally. As we aim to move a smaller crew on ships with a wider skill set, when it comes to automation, there will be high-tech training, as I mentioned before. At the moment, the present SCTW training is really just rock bottom training, and we need to raise the standards with a focus on this new technology as well, which is going to be globally acceptable at the same time. Next slide, please. On the technical side, there will be challenges definitely with the new fuels which are being discussed at the moment. There will be safety procedures and concerns around those new fuels as well. So the crew will need to be very much trained to handle those fuel types. Also, the use of AI in big data in ship management as well. Somehow, there's a huge amount of data which is being harvested, but it needs to be used properly for the benefit of the industry. Where we can help is on the ships North Star invest in, and also the vessels that we manage as well. We can offer those ships as test vessels for the new technology, which will help in the data collection process. Also, we're looking to partner with startups for carbon neutral solutions. So we have allocated space in our office for such startup collaborations, and we would welcome anybody interested to discuss that. And then the next slide. So as Dave mentioned, something I'm very passionate about, we are on the organising committee for an adventure race, which will take place on behalf of a mission to seafarers in Japan in May 2023. This will be a 2-day event held in Izu, which is about 2.5 hours from Tokyo. There will be running and hiking categories with different challenges along the way, including a sea kayaking element. So we are now in the process of reaching out to corporate sponsors, and it will be a great opportunity for UK companies to get behind such a worthy cause. We're expecting a lot of publicity leading up to the event in Japan and around the world, where sponsors will get great exposure to a wider audience across the maritime industry. So for more information, you can either contact us or go to the Mission to Seafarers website, and under the events section, you'll see contact details, etc. there. So that's it from me. Thank you very much. Dave, back to you.
Thanks, Tom. Great presentation as well to wrap up our final panelists as well. Just a quick one before we go into all of the Q&A for the last 10 minutes or so. You mentioned previously that you've obviously got this base of assets. You've obviously got some challenges that you've highlighted in your presentation around education, around some tech elements, and how that's going to change. So what's available for someone with a great idea that might be on the call that's got a new training app to train seafarers? Is there an open door policy with North Star to try and help sort of see whether that fits in terms of training on board your vessels? Because I know you've got a number of assets that you're willing to sort of test new tech.
Absolutely, Dave. So we're working with a number of startups in Singapore and overseas at the moment to offer our expertise in this area when it comes to actually implementing the technology as well. So we're very, very happy to do that, and are actually doing that at the moment as well. And as I mentioned, we've actually carved out space in our office for companies if they wish to have somebody in Singapore for a period of time, use our vessels as test vessels, but importantly also be in a shipping company where they can liaise with our superintendents and see how it all really works. So yeah, we're open to that.
Super. Thanks so much, Tom. Just a quick reminder, we have got 10 minutes or so for some questions. Some have come in, so thank you to those of you who have started to put those through. We've got one here from Plymouth University on looking at research projects around cyberships from their cyberships lab. I'm going to dedicate this one to, or put this one to Kenneth, if that's okay. Obviously, with a lot of digitalization happening going on, there sounds like some really good tech, some innovation coming out of the university spheres as well. Where is it best where we can start sort of joining up sort of industry and academia in the UK through the ecosystem you've created through your digital playbook? Are there any sort of hints and tips for those looking to navigate that?
Yeah, no, I encourage collaboration between the universities on cybersecurity, because I think while at the back of all the digitalization effort, the last thing the maritime industry want is to have all the cybersecurity breaches, gaps, hacking, that kind of like wash down all the efforts on digitalization. So on our part, what we have done is to marry up some of the research institutions in Singapore. In particular, in this area of cybersecurity, we are looking at SUTD, the universities in Singapore, working with some of the industry partners on cyber, very much like IoT on board the vessels, what kind of architecture. And from the question, it looks very similar and very great, because if there are great synergies between the two research institutions, then there is a possibility of joint research. So perhaps please drop a note to us so that we can link you up to the research institution and see if there is common areas of joint collaboration. Because there are joint research programs that we also had with other countries to look at the tapping on the research capabilities of both countries to further some of our maritime challenge statements. Yeah.
Oh, that's fabulous, thank you. And when we get all the slides out to everybody, we'll make sure there's an email address on there where you can email us, and we can certainly make sure that your questions are put through to the right panelist as well. Rashpal, if I could bring you in, there's a question here from Tom from the Singapore Maritime Industries in the UK. As a charterer, you're expecting ship owners to make the investment in green, or do they part invest? Or is it the case of rewarding owners that have made investments in green, and therefore owners who don't invest in green will get reduced levels of business? How does it work in terms of that partnership piece with your stakeholder network, in terms of investing in the good, investing in the green for a more sustainable future?
Thanks, David. Thanks for the question. I think it's a very important question that I get asked a lot. Who's paying for this? And I think the answer to that lies in the reality of the situation. And the reality of the situation is that it is only the economic solutions that get carried forward. So none of us in any part of the supply chain are taking forward something that is not economic, because we can't see that cost being attracted by one part of the supply chain if it's not going to work for the rest of the supply chain. So LNG bulk carriers are a great example. We have to find a way to get the cost of LNG bulk carriers as a total cost of ownership proposition put forward to us, such that against a reference case of VLSFO, that was going to be more cost effective for the vessel owner, for the charterer, for the technical manager, for the ship manager, and ultimately for the steel mill. And I think that's how it will work. But you can't do that unless you take an ecosystem approach. So going back to what I said earlier. But the last part of the question is very important, which is, yes, those people who don't move forward and don't take the steps required to align themselves to an approach will get left behind, and they will be penalized. So you can see a world in not too long from now where whether you're a charterer, vessel owner, ship manager, technical manager, if you haven't moved forward with either a digitized solution or an innovative solution, that because this is going to be table stakes, that the penalization will come from not being part of the supply chain, and that will really hurt.
Fabulous. Thank you. Thanks very much, Rashpal. Tom, there's a question here around decarbonisation and the stronger push for it. Obviously, as an operator, owner and manager, is the push for decarbonisation coming from IMO? Is it coming from local government, or is it coming from stakeholders, or is it your company that's driving a more sustainable future in terms of shipping? Which is the strongest push, or is it a collection of all of those? Do you feel, Tom?
It's all of the above. Definitely. And, I think these targets, which are being set by and discussed with the IMO, and there is a huge amount of discussion obviously going on around that, and the need to decarbonize, will actually happen sooner rather than later, and certainly before, those deadlines which are being given. Everybody on the panel, I'm sure, will confirm this is the most important thing that we are all dealing with now. And as I mentioned in my presentation, ESG is really driving everything. And, that's a good thing, absolutely. So it's stakeholders, it's government, everybody is involved. Obviously, there is, with the Greta Thunbergs out there as well, there's a huge amount of social pressure to do this as well, which is a good thing, because it will make this happen sooner rather than later.
Fabulous. Thank you. Thanks so much, Tom. I'm going to ask you all a final question before we log off in interest of time, but just one for him beforehand. It's a question here around, is the Interport program and the companies that you invest in, is it only for the Singapore market, or is it a global program that you currently running?
It's a global program. So we have Interport offices in Singapore and Hamburg, but we invest globally. There is a focus on Asia and Europe, but global mandate. So interested parties, startups can just approach me directly or through the Interport website, LinkedIn. Everything's fine.
Super. Thank you so much. Look, I mean, a huge thank you to all of you today for being on today's call, for sharing your knowledge today. It's been a really, really great session to present this back to the UK and also show how vibrant the market is here in Singapore. I guess a final question is, before we sign off, is clearly, the Singapore and the UK are two leading maritime nations. There's lots of opportunity here. It sounds like 4 fabulous open doors for all of those on the call today, in terms of getting in touch, getting involved with the digital maritime playbook, getting involved with Pier 71, getting involved with the supply chain, having access to assets to test your kit on, and also access to finance. Sounds like a really good opportunity. So just a quick sort of roundup from all three of you. What are the sort of the top 3 sort of summary things that you'd be looking for from the UK, and for those on the call that might be of interest? So Kenneth, if I can go to you first, and we'll go around the table. The top 3 things you'd like to see from the UK.
Thank you, David. Well, to round off, I would say the top 3 things in my mind that at least come to my mind. First, maybe, is to note that actually maritime is an international business. And therefore, what works in one country needs to be tested, scaled in other countries as well. So, for our UK colleagues and even Singapore or regional audience who listen in, actually the testing of solution needs to scale up to different parts of the world, because different parts of the world have different requirements. Maybe you have to tweak the solution based on the local and international conditions. So that's one thing that I thought maybe is to encourage our audiences to test out their solution, even though you may have a market already expanding, right? Scale. The second one maybe is about ecosystem. I think many when we first visited many companies, they think that they are building up their own team and building up their own solution. But like Tom said, sometimes you may want to be open to a bigger pool of solution and technology and capability out there that you can tap on to kind of enhance and strengthen your own capability. So I think that will be my second takeaway, is actually as an ecosystem, remain open. And lastly, I think is to continue to engage one another because I think that's the only sure path to collaborate, to spark off new ideas. As an annual Smart Port Challenge or Innovation Workshop is to encourage people to come together, talk about some of the industry challenges. Today we may not have the solution, but I think raising some of the challenges will be a very important step, because as the industry continue to reflect on some of the challenges, then more and more support and insights are built on this challenge, and then the innovators within the industry and outside the industry will then look at it differently and propose some of the ideas that we may not have think of.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Fabulous roundup. Thank you, Kenneth. Rashpal.
Just a couple of things. I think I've said that digitization, decarbonisation, and capability are the three things. Aside from that, I'd say that from a UK lens point of view, of course, the Baltic Exchange, Lloyd's Register are all great brands that are very well known across the globe. I think there's room now for the next iteration of brands and innovation from the UK that can land in Asia and then, of course, in Singapore. And I think what I'd leave people with is that if there's a place where public-private partnerships really work and are the key to taking things forward, it is here in Singapore. And given the very, very strong relationship between the Commission and the MPA and us from a private perspective, it couldn't be more fertile to take forward. So my encouragement is to use that as you think appropriate.
Fabulous. Thank you. Thanks, Rashpal. Eamon, what are your top three things?
Well, for us as Innoport, we of course would welcome a lot of engagement with staff in our portfolio. I would like to see more engagement there. So that is certainly also something where we are happy to offer startups, well, let's say as a sparring partner in maybe also making their way to Singapore or into other geographies where we're located. Secondly, I think what Kenneth mentioned, a very, very important point, more collaboration between the stakeholders, from the various stakeholders that we need in the ecosystems that I also spoke about earlier. So an active exchange and yeah, let's say very, very open dialogue about innovation, and that is from the very early stage startup, maybe for a single operational aspect, up to the larger topics to decarbonization. So I think these would be the main points to focus on.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Eamon. And Tom, how about yourself?
I think the other three panelists have covered it. It's really about collaboration. And what we really need is for people to step up and come forward at a very, very interesting time in our industry. So the whole industry is going through this huge transition now. And with that comes so many opportunities. And the UK has historically been a maritime nation, and where maybe the UK is not as competitive now in certain areas, you know, there are other areas where they really can, the country really can, you know, come in and make a difference. Areas like R&D, you know, with this transition we're going through. Also education, as I mentioned in my presentation as well. So I really hope that we do see UK companies and the government also coming forward and collaborating with the rest of the industry as well for the greater good.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Thanks to all of our speakers, Kenneth, Rashpal, Eamon, Tom, thank you so much for your insights and your time and your openness today. I'm conscious we've run a little bit over time. I'm sorry about that. Thank you to our High Commissioner as well, Her Excellency Cara, Owen, for helping us to open today's session as well. So some really interesting takeaways. You know, the sector is vibrant, it's exciting, it's open, and it's here in Singapore. And we've heard all of our speakers provide an open door for discussion for companies aligned to the digital future, decarbonisation, talent development, future fuels, onboard innovation, the startup space, system-driven technological developments, and education. So there's lots of great opportunity here. The presentations will be available together with a recording of today's session, so we will get back to all of the delegates that were on the call today. Thank you to the High Commission, thank you to the Department of International Trade, and thank you to the Society of Maritime Industries for your support today. The Chamber and DIT are available to support your business here in Singapore, so please do get in touch. And we certainly hope that this was a great start to your maritime journey here in Singapore. Thank you.